Grab a seat. One of the things we'll have to get better at when we're online is not having the drifting in 10 minutes later to church for the people who are here. The online people can continue to drift in, I suppose. But it will make for some boring online worship if they're just watching us continue to drift in for 10 minutes. All right, I'll let my wife be my guide. When Michelle is in the room and seated, we'll get started. So welcome. Good morning. I'm Reverend Barnaby Feeder, and words cannot fully describe the joy that I feel as I welcome you to the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society this morning for a unique version of one of our favorite rituals, the Flower Communion. I'm so glad you could join us, whether you are in this sanctuary, on our grounds outside, or online. This is our very first opportunity to gather here at CVUUS in large numbers since we began social distancing to fight the COVID pandemic in March of 2020. 15 months of pandemic hasn't changed the fact that we exist as a congregation to promote life and love-sustaining UU principles in ourselves and in the wider community. We aim to sustain an inclusive spiritual home in Addison County for people of all ages without regard to race, class, nationality, religious affiliation, and gender or sexual identity. But we're going to ease into today's worship service because we're going to have some less than lofty language to have some announcements about how we can worship safely at this stage of the pandemic. There's still some prudent restrictions that we need to pay attention to. So please think of today as our first big experiment on the road back to normal worship in September, if all goes well. This morning may well feel thrillingly familiar in some ways, or novel and odd in others. And that's going to be true of many, many Sundays to come. We need this summer to experiment and learn how to make it so that our online friends and congregants feel they are really present with us as we are with them. None of our summer services are going to be totally unrestricted as to who can come to the sanctuary, but we will, on occasion, welcome small numbers of attendees to help us gather feedback on what we are doing live. The best way to keep up with what's on tap for summer services, if you want to come in some Sunday, is to be looking at your Wednesday email blast for what our plans are for that Sunday. The blast is also your best source for information about the many things that we do in small groups here. And if we call them pathways to connection, but if you've been feeling disconnected from us, there's no better way to start getting that feeling of reconnecting going than to be active in one of the small group activities. One such group will be preparing meals for Charterhouse in our kitchen tomorrow. Another, the writers group, will meet on Zoom tomorrow night. And the Wednesday blast is going to feature a whole bunch more upcoming examples of how you can connect with a small group. Now, typically, we share what we call personal milestones and passages halfway through a worship service. But because today isn't typical, I'm just going to take a brief moment during this extended welcome to name a few that were brought to my attention during the last few days, or in one case this morning. Anne Brousseau sends her love but can't be with us today because she has reached the stage in dealing with her cancer through hospice, where she's largely confined to her room at the residence and often not able to comfortably socialize. Cards are welcome, but if you want to visit, please check first with her daughter, Mary Conlon. Ken Levine moved to Maine this week, and he also sends love and regrets that he can only be with us online. He told me Thursday as he left, "I'm starting a rather exciting new chapter of my life, but this is possibly the hardest goodbye I have ever had the pleasure to give. How do I thank an entire congregation for supporting me in my trials and low times?" Well, we do have some flowers representing Ken in our bouquet today at his request. Richard Hopkins, who is a crucial cog in our tech team, who's producing the Zoom portion of this service from his home this morning, told me this week that his brother Nicholas died Wednesday night in Cairo, Egypt, from COVID complications interacting with an underlying neurologic illness that he'd had for some time. Nick lived in Egypt for 50 years, but often came to Vermont to meet up with other family members at a home on Lake Dunmore that's been in the family since 1940. Richard said there will be a celebration of Nick's life there later this summer. Richard added that he's aware of sharing his personal loss with millions and millions of other people around the world who have lost family members of their own to COVID. And he's also feeling profound gratitude for online technologies like FaceTime that allowed him to stay in touch with Nick in recent years as travel became difficult. Finally, Bobby Carnweth, who is one of the two people who will be assembling our bouquet this morning for us, gave me a true yellow card just before the service started, and she said she wanted it remarked that yesterday was Loving Day, which is the celebration of the 1967 Supreme Court decision allowing Richard and Mildred Loving to marry despite it being an interracial couple in Virginia. And this is related to a very personal joy of theirs. Yesterday was also the day that Jack's daughter married the love of her life on the shore of a pond near her childhood home in the Adirondacks, and that could not have happened without Loving Day. So they are grateful for both. So typically we now leave a time of silent prayer and meditation because we know there are lots of unspoken joys and concerns, whether you're a young child or our oldest congregant, that are on your heart, and we want everybody to have a chance to get in touch with those. But today, because this welcome is going on and on and on, I'm just going to move past that moment of silence and ask you to do that on your own when you're outside, maybe. I want to wrap up with just a few of the COVID precautions we need to observe here till further notice. There's more that are printed in your order of service. But the very, very important ones for us to do this and to keep doing this in the future is, first of all, if you don't feel well, please go home immediately and make sure we know who you have been in contact with. Second, whether or not you are vaccinated, we ask that you wear a mask and maintain safe distances of 6 feet between you and anyone who you do not live with while you are inside the building. This does not mean you can't briefly be closer than that in moving around. When you go outside, we ask that you either maintain your distance or be masked, though of course you should do both if that makes you feel more comfortable. Third, we ask that you not sing inside, but you should feel free to hum if the occasion arises. Fourth, our tech team asks that you disconnect your cell phones from the CVUUS Wi-Fi service. Many of you who come here regularly, it automatically connects, and we're just not sure how much bandwidth we have. We want to make sure that we maintain enough to have a good connection with the people online. So we ask you to do that today, to just disconnect your phone from our cell phone service. You can either turn it off or disconnect. We have ushers who are wearing choir stoles around, and they're going to be able to help you with any questions you have going forward. So if you didn't pick up an order of service coming in and you're not clear on what's going on, some of the ushers will be able to help you. And we're going to be announcing each step of this also as we go along. So feel free to ask questions if confusion arises. Remember, I said there's a lot of experimenting going on today. And now I'm going to turn things over to Chuck Miller for our prelude, and he will be followed by Julia Chant, ringing our bowl to acknowledge the sacredness of the land on which we meet. And then Carl Lindholm, our worship associate, will take over with what's in the order of service about our call to worship and our chalice lighting. Jack.
We recognize that the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society gathers on the lands of the Western Abenaki people. We recognize their spiritual relationship with this land, and we hope to use this spiritual relationship to further our relationship with each other and nurture all beings around us.
Our call to worship this morning are two short verses. The first is Our Flowers, 20 to 21, by a writer quite familiar to us, Reverend Barnaby Feeder. Our flowers who show us heaven, hallowed be your names, your shapes, your colors, and scents. Give us this day nourishing beauty. May you survive our trespasses and inspire us to forgive those who harm us. Call us away from greed and folly and wastefulness. May we see in your glory our glory. For all of us are blooms of a love that is life's glory forever and ever. Amen. I added this verse unbeknownst to Barnaby. He'll have to bear with me. Yesterday, Brett and I and our grandchildren who are here this morning, Dullen and Karis, walked the Robert Frost Trail on a beautiful day in Ripton, and I hope you'll be able to do that. It's quite remarkable. It's fully accessible. So it's a nature walk accessible to all. The first poem on the Robert Frost Trail is called The Pasture. I'm going out to clean up the pasture spring. I'll only stop to rake the leaves away and wait to watch the water clear, I may. I shan't be gone long. You come too. I'm going out to fetch the little calf that's standing by the mother. It's so young. It totters when she licks it with her tongue. I shan't be gone long. You come too. I would only add this. I'm coming to church this sunny day. You come too. Now, as Barnaby lights our chalice, symbolizing Unitarian Universalism, I would invite those viewing online to read the words that are on your screen. Those of you here, I'll say a few words by Amy Zucker Morgenstern, who some of you remember was once a congregant here, is now the minister in Palo Alto, Unitarian Universalist minister in Palo Alto, and did a wonderful service for us just a few months ago. Within the heart of the flower, the fountain of beauty. Within the heart of the community, a fire that warms and dances. Within the heart of each of us, a spark of the spirit of life. Holy, holy, holy.
So one of the secrets of staying healthy is to not spend too long in an enclosed space. So we want to get you outside while Bobby Carnwith and Marnie Wood work their magic making our communal bouquet. And there's a bunch of activities for you outside that are in your order of service. And there's also just a free thinker's space over in the shade there to just sit quietly if you'd like. And there's going to be, for the folks at home, there's a video going out of a brief homily I did this week, and an even shorter version of that homily is in your order of service if you want to read that during your time outside. I want to say that, while there are plenty of chairs out there, if you're older and you would not feel comfortable being out for that long, you can come and sit and watch Bobby and Marnie make the bouquet. I have to say it already looks beautiful, but I assure you it's going to be even more beautiful, because the beautiful thing you did was bringing your flowers, but then when the community starts to work on what we've brought together, there's even more beauty made. I'm going to also mention that there will be an offering received outside while it's being done online via video. This month, we are sharing our offering with the Festival on the Green, which had to shut down entirely last summer and is making a comeback this summer in August with a shortened schedule, but it's going to be great, and we wanted to support it. So if you get a minute to go by the table where Mary Hadley is sitting right outside Fenn House to make a donation to the festival on the green, or to share donation with the congregation of the festival, I invite you to do that as well. After about 20, 25 minutes, however long it takes to work the magic here, the ushers will let you know that it's ready for everybody to come back in. I will speak a consecration prayer written by Norbert Chapek, the man who invented the flower communion in 1921 in Prague, and people will come back in to receive their flowers. We will form two lines, one on the north side of the table, one on the south side of the table, so that the lines coming through can maintain distance, and we'll ask you to maintain your distance in the lines as best you can. Remember, when you're outside, you don't need to have your mask on if you've got distance. When you're inside, we try to ask you to keep your mask on and observe distance as we try to get through this with an abundance of caution. After you've gone through and you've picked up your flower from the bouquet, we invite you to exit out that far east door in the scrim wall and go down the stairs. There's a little refreshment that will be passed out. You can linger for a minute or two if you want in the fellowship hall and look at the photography exhibit Eric Nelson has made for us and recently updated by inserting some flower photos. And then make your way outside. Eventually, once everybody has made their way around to where we can see Poppy out on the patio, she will lead us in singing Spirit of Life with Jay Harrington accompanying on the guitar. And I will do a very brief benediction from out there, and that will be our on-site service for today. So now, Francois is going to invite you out. He's going to go out to the patio, and he's going to sing outside, "Come, come, whoever you are," which ought to cover everybody here, and invite you outside to those activities. And you can hum while you're here along with him, but don't start singing till you get outside. Okay, Francois, take it away.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Amen.
Good morning. It occurred to me it might be a good idea to pre-record a message for those of you who are unable to be with us for Flower Communion Sunday. It gives you a little bit of the background and why it's so important for us to try to gather again and have this ritual as a time back in the sanctuary. Flower Communion was invented in 1923 as a celebration of beauty and diversity. History gave it an additional layer of meaning, affirming that love will survive in the face of oppression and disaster. And I want to share the story about how that came about with you this morning. The inventor of the ritual was Reverend Norbert Chopik. He was an ordained Baptist minister who encountered and then embraced Unitarianism while living as a refugee in the United States during World War I. Now, during this time of exile, Reverend Chopik's wife died and left him with 8 children. He remarried a Czech immigrant he'd met named Maya, who happened to be a librarian at the New York Public Library. In 1921, Norbert and Maya returned to Prague, determined to create a Unitarian congregation there in the capital of Czechoslovakia, a new nation born in the ashes of World War I. They had influential support in the form of their friendship with Charlotte Masaryk, a Brooklyn-born Unitarian who was the wife of Thomas Masaryk, the founding leader of Czechoslovakia. Both Thomas Masaryk and his son made appearances in the new Unitarian pulpit. In publicity terms, it was like founding a church after the American Revolution and having George Washington show up as a guest preacher. The new church grew to more than 3,000 members, and Maya became a minister there alongside her husband. There were more than 600 children in its Sunday school, and several other churches patterned after this church sprang up around that one in Prague. This growth came to a halt, though, as Europe plunged into economic depression in the 1930s and political fascism spread. Flower Communion then became a day of congregational comfort and hope in the face of gathering danger and suffering. When Nazi Germany occupied Czechoslovakia in 1939, Maya went back to the United States to raise money to help refugees, and she introduced the Flower Communion to American Unitarians in a worship service in 1940 at the historic First Parish Unitarian Church on Harvard Square in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and then she visited other churches to introduce it there. In 1941, she learned that Norbert and their daughter Zora had been arrested by the Gestapo. Reverend Chopik was eventually sent to the Dachau concentration camp, where he is thought to have died in a gas chamber in 1942. But by then, his Flower Communion had already begun taking root in this country. Now, it often seems to me that Flower Communion endures in part because there are so many meanings to be drawn from this ritual, as many meanings as there are flowers. Certainly, the beauty and the diversity of flowers is advice this year to us about how to plan our responses to reopening CVUUS after 15 months of severe social distancing. We need to be creating multiple ways of communal worship as we wonder whether there will be a future
in which COVID waves descend on us and we again have to retreat to more distancing. We want to have many ways of coming together. But in this year full of uncertainty and pain, I want to leave you with one simple lesson from this year's communion. Our faith, particularly the Universalist side of it, says that in the end, only one truth stands out above all others. There is an undefeatable spirit of life-giving love and love-giving life loose in the universe. I see it as an emerging evolutionary tendency toward God, but call it what you will, the flowers say the same thing. Blessed be and amen.
We're out here, and the crowd is assembled at the different stations. And this is a station set up by the landscape team and the Flower Network. And among other things, there's some poetry that was sent in by Caitlin Gildrian. And Mitch Kramer is going to pick one of these poems that Caitlin sent in and read it for you. Got it, Mitch, there? Okay, and Mitch, because he knows the sound system better than anyone, doesn't have to be told that he has to speak right into the microphone.
Digging up some hosta during the pandemic by Caitlin Gildrian. Think of the bulbs just pushing up out of stasis, out of the underworld. Think of Persephone blinking as she steps out into the clean air of April. Think of the mosses and ferns furiously turning green before there is a single leaf on a single tree. Think, too, of how abundance will choke itself when it isn't shared, how some flowers must be divided and divided again, how they love to be given away, how the shovel that severs the roots brings up all you planted there, the last rotted chunks of compost, bright flecks of vermiculite sparkling in the sun. How what we bury comes back to us. How what we let go of sometimes can bring more. How much waiting earth there is.
Thank you, Mitch. That was a beautiful reading. I'm sure that Caitlin, if she's watching at home, will be very appreciative of what you did with that. Let's go over here. We actually got a children's table set up, and I see the Timmons family here. And here's, how would you feel like about saying something to the people who are watching at home? Declan, you want to say hello to people? You speak right straight into this. Declan is busy on the popsicle when I would be reluctant to make a speech at that point too. Rory is even busier at his popsicle. Do you want to, why don't you speak to the folks who are out there?
It's really nice to be back. It's nice to be back here. Yeah. It's really nice to be back here at church. We've been looking forward to it, and even more of a relief than we expected, which is hard to imagine. So thank you for making all this happen. Yeah, a lot of gratitude.
I think it's great to know that there are also a whole bunch of people out there who are going to watch this either today or later who couldn't make it, but will know that we're on our way experimenting on being back. So that's fantastic. Well, it's great to see you here. And no one has sat at that table and done anything for the community via our congregation for a long time. So thank you, Declan and Rory, for being the first. So Jordan, let's go over here. and we see a bunch of folks who are sitting and taking advantage of the shade, and behind them are the folks at the Caring Network table working on writing letters to folks. I'm going to speak for 1 minute here to Neil. Hey, Neil, Charlie, can I interrupt for 1 minute? You sent me a really interesting note, Neil, this week, which I didn't share in the milestones, but I thought you might want to tell people at home because it's great. It represents how everybody who comes to CVUUS comes from another place with other people they've known, and they bring all of that connection too to making the congregation a more interesting place. So why don't you share what you sent a note to me?
Hi, my name is Neil Chippendale, and we moved up here and have been coming to this congregation about 5 years, but our previous congregation was in Pennsylvania. And one of my good friends in that church was a journalist by the name of David Zucchino, who we've known since the 80s. He worked for the Philadelphia Inquirer. He wrote a book called The Myth of the Welfare Queen while he was in Philadelphia. He then went with the Los Angeles Times, and he did international reporting. So he's been everywhere. He was in Sarajevo getting sniper fire. He was in Iraq. He was in Afghanistan. When he was in Iraq, he was embedded in a army division that was headed to liberate Baghdad. And he wrote a book about that called Thunder Road, which is another good read. And when you read it, it's talking about all the bullets whizzing around and people hiding behind their Humvees and underneath overpasses. And then you got to realize that he's there. He's in the middle of this. The bullets are flying past his head as well. And one story he told me was that when they were racing for Baghdad through the night in the truck, somehow it went off the road and they went into one of the irrigation ditches and the whole truck turned upside down. He managed to get out of there, but some guys died in that truck. He lost his laptop, lost all his gear. So this is a guy, he doesn't mention any personal stuff in his books. It's all about the soldiers and the other people. And so he's been doing this every time he went away. Everybody in the church was all worried about him coming back. And he just flew back from Afghanistan just a few days ago. But he moved to North Carolina and he got involved with some research down there in Wilmington, North Carolina. And he wrote a book about what was called the Wilmington riots, which was really a coup in Wilmington where whites came and threw out the elected black population. So he wrote a book about the Wilmington coup and the rise of white supremacy in the South. And this happened in 1898. So anyways, this week, David Zucchino was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for nonfiction. So I am very, very proud of my friend, David.
And thanks for bringing that recommendation to us, Neil. Maybe that's a book we'll look at as we talk about the eighth principle and a better understanding of race going forward in the coming year at CVUUS. Okay, I'm going to take a break from the interviews now so that we can run the video for the offering for the people who are watching online and give them a chance to support Festival on the Green as well. We'll be back in a little while with people getting their flowers. would call it a 5-minute advisory. I don't expect to see a sudden rush. That's right. That's right. And we'll be ushers will be reminding folks at the. Excellent. Yeah. Larry, it's really great to see you here. Larry, is it true that you can claim the most recently operated on for a major body overhaul distinction in the congregation, do you think?
I hope so.
That there, spoken like a true gentleman. Larry's recovering from a hip operation, and it's great that you made it over. I'm sparing you guys hearing all that. I'll just say that Helene has said she's getting a new husband bit by bit. So, hey, Charlie, it's good to see you here. Have you been able to travel anywhere this spring? No?
Florida for a few months in the winter, but that was it.
So you finally did make it down. I know the beginning of the trip was a little.
Got our shots up here. In a chair for 24 hours in line waiting to get our shots. So we did it the Vermont way.
That's good. You boosted our totals. You probably counted our vaccination rate. And I think is a possibility if 1,000 people get vaccinated in Vermont today, we will go over the threshold and into the fewer restrictions. But that doesn't mean we're immediately changing everything at CVUUS because we think it's a little confusing to change the policies every other week in response to what's happening with COVID. So we try to keep things going for a few months so people know what's happening and then see if it merits a bigger change.
Mask or without masks. You go to one store and nobody has a mask on, and right across the street, everybody has a mask on. So, you just carry one in your pocket and you do what everybody's doing. I mean, that's about it.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting test of good manners. If you don't have the hard science to tell you exactly what you should do, just doing what makes people around you comfortable should be the default position. Yeah, so. Yeah. Let's go talk to the folks who are hanging out up on the. Hi, Steve. Now I have to confess, I missed the SEAC, the climate energy roundtable that I was on my schedule for this week because I got caught up longer in the practice technology here. Do you want to tell people a little bit about what you're doing with there? Because I think that really overlaps a lot with our mission.
You want me to hold it? Or are you going to hold it? Sorry. Thanks, Barnaby. A couple of years ago, several other people and I joined, started an organization called the Climate Economy Action Center of Addison County. And our technologist who's behind the scenes making this happen is also involved with me. Richard Hopkins is part of that group, and Spence Putnam, that some of you might know, and a number of other folks in the community are now involved with doing some both data gathering and planning and actions around how do we figure out as a community or a set of communities here in Addison County what we want our communities to look like and what's the economy going to be like in 5 or 10 years. We know that there are already some changes all around us, both climatic changes, but also changes in how agriculture works or there are more and more electric vehicles. Some companies, for example, General Motors and Ford, I think maybe recently have announced they won't be making cars with internal combustion engines any longer by 2030. So what does that mean to all the car dealerships here in our community and all the repair shops? We aren't going to really need the same kind of economy that we have now. And so what does a new economy look like? And so that's sort of what we're tangling with. Where it's a little bit of a, we don't know either. We're trying to figure it out as we go along, and along with everybody else around us. Thanks.
Coming to you from behind the camera, it sounds like the flower folks are just about done with their works, and I think Reverend Barnaby is going to call us to order.
All right, folks, we're going to, I'm going to yell into this in a minute and encourage people to start making their way in to get their flowers. Okay, everybody, let's go and pick up our flowers and then move downstairs for a bit of refreshment before coming back out here to sing Spirit of Life. And please remember, masks on in the sanctuary. Yep. So one usher. Okay. And you can tell that way or that way, either way. And I'm going to do a, I got to do less. Come on, squad, just. As you come in, folks, in your order of service, you'll find a consecration of the flowers. When we would normally do it, everybody would be here blessing it, but we have a traffic issue. So I just invite those of you who are around, who have your order of service and can find the consecration language, if you want to read it along with me, you're more than welcome. It's on the back of the main folder. This is the consecration prayer by Norbert Chopik. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, the messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to good and beauty. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing with one another. May we cherish friendship as a most precious gift. May we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed. May we be strengthened by the knowledge that one spirit of love unites us, and may we endeavor together for a more joyful life for all. Amen. Now I invite people to form two lines. One, you can go on the north side of the table. Other, you can go around this way and get your flower from the south side of the table, and then invite everybody to proceed out the door there where Terry is sitting. Terry, wave your hand. Go out that door and down the steps or down the elevator to the fellowship hall to receive your treat and look at the photos, and then head back outside to sing Spirit of Life. So if we can get the two lines going, and Chuck is going to play some music for us while we do that. I want to give a special shout out to Gail Munchow and Elizabeth Golden, who are serving and arranging this. Do you want to say something to the people at home?
We're having a wonderful time, a beautiful day here, and we have all kinds of homemade cookies and lots of different drinks. We hope nice to see you virtually. Oh, thank you for the flower. I just was given a flower. Thank you very much.
So we'll do our best to distribute some of these cookies. We may not bring you drinks, but some of you who are at home, we're going to try to get you flowers and cookies if that's feasible. I'm not sure how well the flowers will hold up at this point. But we're going to have a few more minutes and then assemble outside for singing Spirit of Life. And I hope at home you will join us for that. And I'm going to take advantage of this to turn off my mic and get a little drink myself.
you.
Okay. Can I be heard inside? Check, check. Hi, folks on Zoom who I can't see. Thanks for coming. Yes, we knew. Right, so Zoomers, Jay is here playing guitar, which you won't hear. You got to just imagine his mind-blowingly amazing playing. If you don't know the words, just hum or whatever. They're also in your order of service, which you, of course, have carried with you and still have. Yeah, you're going to do this. Okay. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Bell stops, the sound keeps coming out of the flowers. Words from over 400 years ago from the Japanese poet Basho. We don't have a temple bell, but you are the temple bell. And may the flowers and you continue to sound the blessings of beauty and community in the days to come. Blessed be and amen.
Well,